right, operations with matrices 10.2. So what do we have to know about matrices? This is what a matrix looks like. Some of you guys may have seen this before, whether it's on practice SAT or ACT, I don't know which one, but you guys will see this, okay? When we're looking at a matrix, it's a rectangular array of numbers with m rows and n columns. So we should know the difference between rows and columns. So looking at this, I have rows that go side to side, and your columns go up and down. So if I'm looking at this, again, these are my rows, and these are my columns. So it's something we have to know. How do I know this? Because again, rows and columns. How are we ordering a matrix? How do we say it? How many rows do I have here? If I'm looking at it, rows, I have 3. By columns, I have 2. So this is a 3 by 2. Okay, this is a 3 by 2. So always remember that you're naming it by rows, then columns. So 3 by 2. Now, every single individual number here is called my entry, and you're going to hear that word a lot. So just know individual. Every individual number is called an entry. Okay, so if I'm looking at this matrix, how many entries do I have? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This just goes in number order. All you have to know is there are 6 total entries. Doesn't matter what the number is. Okay, so my numbers can be mixed up, but how many do I have individually? In this case, I have 6. And again, this is a 3 by 2. All right, adding and subtracting matrices can only be performed if the matrix has the same dimensions. So like we said before, we should know how to name our dimensions by our rows and columns, and they have to have the same dimension in order to solve it, okay? You add and subtract the corresponding entries, and I'm going to explain to you what that means. Now, let's just say we have 2 matrices, and they have different dimensions. My answer would be not possible. Okay, so just write that down because that's super important to know. Let me grab a white. Okay, if they do not have the same dimensions, your answer would be not possible. Okay, so please make sure you know that if they do not have the same dimensions, your answer is not possible. So let's go ahead and do some examples. So again, I'm just going to write it down here. When you are adding and subtracting, you have to add and subtract the corresponding entries. And you're going to see that as we go through the examples, okay? You're adding and subtracting the corresponding entries. And let's go ahead and look at the first one. So, perform the indicated operation. So let's go ahead and first determine, do I have the same dimensions? What would my dimensions be for the first one? Remember, we're calling it by rows, then columns. So looking at the first one, how many rows do I have? Okay, so looking at this one, how many rows do I have? 2, 1, 2, and how many columns? 1, 2, so this would be called a 2 by 2. And what about the one next to it? How many rows? I still have 2. Columns, I still have 2. So again, this is still a 2 by 2. So because I have the same dimensions, I can go ahead and figure out my answer. So I have to find, like we said before, the corresponding entries. So looking at this one, I'm going to go ahead and what's corresponding to -1? That would be my positive 1. So writing my answer, I'm going to go ahead and have my brackets. And -1 plus 1 would give me 0. Going on to the next one, I have 2 plus 3. That's going to give me 5. Then I have 0 plus -1. I'm going to have -1. And the last one is 1 plus 2. I'm going to have 3. So this would be my answer in the end. I'm going to go ahead and highlight it. This is how it should be written. Again, it goes with the corresponding entry. So looking at the next example, what is my dimensions for my first one? How many rows do I have? I'm sorry, how many columns do I have? No, rows first and then columns, my mistake. So how many rows do I have? I have 2. How many columns? 3, so this is a 2 by 3. Looking at the next one, I have the same thing. So I can go ahead and find my answer. So going ahead and finding what's corresponding. Don't forget you have to have those brackets. So looking at the first one, I have 0 and 3. So this would give me 3. Looking at the next one, I have 1 plus 4. I'm going to end up with a 5. Please make sure you guys leave spaces. I don't want it to look like 35. I have -2 plus -1. That's going to give me a -3. I have 1 plus 2. That's going to give me 3. Let me grab another color. I have 2 and 1. That's going to give me 3. And then the last one, I have 3 plus 0, and that's just going to give me 3. So this would be my answer. Again, finding those corresponding entries for each of them. All right, looking at the next one, number 3. What is my dimensions for the first one? What would my dimensions be? How many rows do I have? 3. How many columns? 1. What about the next one? How many rows do I have? 1. And how many columns? 3. What would my answer be for here? My dimensions are not the same. What would my answer be? Not possible. Okay, so again, when you are adding and subtracting, you have to have the same dimensions. If they're not the same, it is not possible. All right, scalar multiple, multiply each entry by the scalar multiple. These are pretty simple. You're just using what they're giving you, okay? So, and here your matrix can be represented using a letter, a capital letter. Whether it's A, B, or X, Y, sometimes any letters can be used, but you have to know what goes where. So A equals this matrix here. B equals this matrix here. Now for this question, it says find 3A. So what you're doing is you're taking whatever A was and you're multiplying all of those by 3. So you have to go in steps here, okay? So looking at example number 4, I'm multiplying 3 times A. So 3 times A, looking up at what my A is right here, I'm multiplying all my entries times 3. So going in the same order as what they gave me, I'm going to start with my 2, and I'm going to do my rows and continue. Again, they should be corresponding here in my answer. So looking at the first one, I have 3 times 2. What would I get? 3 times 2 would give me 6. 3 times 2 would give me 6 again. Again, don't forget to leave those spaces. Now I'm going to go ahead and do 3 times 4, which I'm going to end up with 12. 3 times -3 would give me -9. 3 times 0, I'm just going to get 0. 3 times -1, I'm going to end up with a -3. 3 times 2, 6 again. 3 times 1, 3, and 3 times 2 would be 6, and I'm done. So again, follow what they're giving you. They're telling me I'm 3 times A. I'm going to go ahead and only use A. All right, looking at number 5. Now, you could think of this as multiplying by -1, and that's fine. You could put a 1 there if you want, but you don't necessarily have to. So going ahead and solving this one, let's grab a blue. Let me get a little bit of a darker blue. So using a 1, 2 times negative 1 would just be negative 2. 0 times negative 1 is 0. Same thing for this one. 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. 1 times negative 4 is a positive 4. Negative 1 times 3 would be negative 3. Negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. Negative 1 times 3 is negative 3. And negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. And I'm done. Okay, so not too difficult. Just make sure you know what they're asking you for. All right, looking at example number 6. Now, example number 6 says find 3a minus b. If you notice, we already did that 3a part right here. And that minus b, I could also write this as 3a plus negative b. So if I'm looking at it, I already have that negative b part right here. So I'm going to go ahead and write this out. I'm going to write them separately. Well, I'm going to write them together. We kind of already solved them separately. I'm going to write them together and then solve. So what do I have? I have my 3a. I'm just going to go ahead and rewrite this. So I'm going to go ahead and have 6, 6, 12, negative 9, 0, negative 3, 6, 3, 6. And then I'm going to go ahead and put that plus sign. Okay, we have to remember I can go ahead and change that to a negative b by adding negative b instead of saying subtracting b, because I want to be able to see some sort of sign in the middle. Now looking at the next part, same thing, writing it negative 2, 0, 0, negative 1, 4, negative 3, 1, negative 3, negative 2. And then let's go ahead and solve this. All right, so looking at this, same thing we did before. Do I have the same dimensions? Looking at this, I have a 3 by 3. And this one is also 3 by 3. And I'm just going to go ahead and solve. So solving for my answer. Again, looking at the corresponding entries, 6 plus negative 2, I'm going to get 4. 6 plus 0 is 6. 12 plus 0 is 12. Negative 9 plus negative 1 is negative 10. 0 plus 4 is 4. Negative 3 plus negative 3 is negative 6. 6 plus 1 is 7. 3 plus negative 3 is 0. And 6 plus negative 2 would give me 4, and I'm done.